box and the green box, little box and the blue one, box and the yellow one and the little and the box and the green box.
Welcome to the You Can Call Me Karen podcast, where we talk about casting spells, mixing potions, and practicing witchcraft. This week, we will be joined by Lex Smith, the founder of Spiritual You. Lex is a seer, visionary, and luminary. She also is a meditation and energy guide who practices spiritual consulting and astrology. We are so happy to have her on You Can Call Me Karen to talk about some woo shit. Embrace your inner Karen and inner witch. This is going to be a good one.
Box, little box.
Hey, bitches. And I'm saying bitches with an E, not an I, which means it's endearing. Okay?
Oh, is that the delineation?
That is.
Thank you.
So me and my friend Tara, Steph, I think you know this story, but me and my friend Tara in high school made up this song that was like, I used to spell dog like D-O-double-G. Now I spell dog. Which means we spell it which way? Which way are we now spelling dog?
With an A-W.
Yay! I passed the test. And I don't know why, but when I just said that about bitches, it reminded me of that song.
It's a good song, Manny. It's a good song.
There's a couple in our little toolbox there that Tara and I had. So I'll keep bringing them out, keep you guys on your toes. But yes, this week I am joined with my two fabulous co-hosts, Steph and Karen. Hello.
Hello.
And our special guest, Lex Smith. Hi, Lex.
Hi, guys. What a pleasure.
Yes.
What good company I'm in.
We feel the same. It's only because we're looking at you, Lex.
Oh,
It's true. She's a beaut. She's a beaut. You guys got to jump on YouTube and see. Before we get started, though, Lex, can you give us a little brief peek into who you are, what you do? Maybe you could just tell us like what those fancy words in your Instagram bio mean for those
we'll figure
listeners.
it out together.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out.
Yes, that's the best answer. We
Yes.
love you.
Well, I should just put out there, I am always becoming. We'll just say that right off the bat.
Yes.
My Instagram bio, I actually just rehatched that into Seer, visionary, and illuminary, because part of what I do is channel and work with energy and work outside of things that we can see with our two eyes. And so seer, illuminary, visionary, I have ADHD, so my brain works in these really crazy and funny ways. Yeah. And so I'm very, very visual. And that visual, I say that my brain is another eye. And so I tend to see things more with my brain rather than with my two eyes. And so that's where visionary comes from, seer. Some people lean towards calling me a healer. I actually steer away from that, just as a personal preference, because I believe that we all heal ourselves. I just illuminate what needs to maybe be healed or looked at. So, yeah.
Wow. She
And
does
then
not.
it'll
What's
probably
that?
change in another 2 years or so. That's what I'm working with now.
God. So I was just gonna say, like, your brand of humility is like what I aim for in life. I'm like, nah, bitch, I'm a healer.
That word has been hijacked. Like that is that might be my reclaiming my Karen, is that that word has been hijacked, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I think you're right too. I think you're right. Speaking of Karens, let's go ahead and jump in with our Karens before we get too deep into the conversation with Lex. In the spirit of our podcast, we do Karen stories, our Karens of the week. Lex, I believe you have a Karen ready to share with our listeners, but let's kick it to the actual Karen on this podcast first.
Yes.
To jump in with who you calling Karen this week.
Awesome. Yes, I can get us kicked off. So I just got back from spring break with my family. And we were in Mexico. It was so lovely.
Ooh,
We
did
were
you show your
staying-
titties?
Yes.
Remember when MTV Spring Break was in Mexico?
Oh, yeah.
That threw me off. I was like, why would I? Nobody wants that.
I can think of one man at least on this planet who wants that.
You're right. He does want that. Love you, boo. Yeah, we were not on MTV Spring Break in Mexico. We had our son with us. It was very PC. We were staying at this lovely resort, and admittedly, I thought I would come back from spring break with like a plethora of Karen story options. And on the last night there, Bob and I were sitting having a drink and discussing like that I needed to prepare for this. And so he was like helping me think of Karens. I literally thought I would just like look over and find a Karen. It's just, it's just the environment for it. And shockingly, it was very pleasant, but there was one Chad. And so one night we were at dinner. And like it's a kind of smaller resort. They have, I think, 3 restaurants, which actually, as I say that out loud, doesn't make it sound smaller at all. But anyways, smaller restaurants, smaller resort. And so you like have to make reservations, which is kind of annoying, but is what it is. And Bob was like, dude, this guy. So I kind of like peek to see what's happening. And it's like quintessential old white wealthy man with like a navy sport coat that has like the white lining. I don't know what that is. And like slacks and boat shoes and white hair. He was just owning his Chad. And
sounds hot.
It wasn't. And he was like, he was making a big scene because he made a reservation 4 weeks ago. And it was 7:32. Okay, so his reservation was clearly for 7:30. And the person who was seating him was like, we're just cleaning your table. Like it'll be 1 minute.
Yeah.
And literally like 1 minute later they sat him, but he was like calling the manager, making a big scene, like talking about how he had the reservation 4 weeks ago. And Bob was like, this guy, man.
Yeah.
So Chad, get it together. In fairness, like we were trying to be polite afterwards, like once they got seated, and this Chad was old. I mean, he had like full white hair. He was probably, I don't know, in his 60s or something. And
that
he
is
was
not
with
old, girl.
Hear me out. But wait, hear me out. He was with his parents. And so he had like really old people with him. And so Bob was like, well, maybe, maybe that's what he was being overly sensitive about because the old people needed to like, sit down or something. But either way, it was literally like they sat down at 7:34. So why are we freaking out right now, Chad? And also you're in a magical place on vacation.
Right. It's vacation.
Take it down.
Yeah.
So
you're going to be late for sitting
You're
around.
late for what?
Where else do you have to be?
Yes. And like this is the thing that irritates me about like traveling to resorts sometimes is the Americanization of resorts. And I'm not saying this is what your resort did, but when we went to Mexico, I felt like it was not like this. But I feel like a lot of resorts, like between the food and like the services, they like default to American culture.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, I did not travel to want to be like embraced in American culture. And I feel like so often, like the reason why you were expecting to see more Karens is because like so often people forget that like culturally, like people are not like as on time
Yes.
when
Mhm.
you travel into these foreign countries like we are in America. And
Yeah.
so like it upsets me because like what's the point in traveling to see these beautiful places and to interact with these different communities if you're still going to expect what you would expect back at home?
Because we
Yeah.
are a country of Karens and Chads. Like we just expect
Speak for
everybody
yourself.
to be us when we're there. So
Yeah.
I expected to see more Karen behavior, and I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised. Maybe they're all just like listening to the pod and being kinder to everyone. I don't know.
That's the hope, at least.
It's definitely what's happening, by the way. Definitely.
Certainly. Just like us getting sponsors, which
Yeah.
should we break for that? No, I'm just kidding.
Manifest it.
Yes,
No need.
manifesting.
Manifesting.
Speaking of the manifesting, Lex, let's go to you. Who you calling Karen this week?
All right. Well, I'm going to call. Okay, so based on that answer, I'm going to go bold as well. My Karen is the government. So we're going with
Yeah.
Very
that.
good.
Hey guys, I'm an,
Lex, you're speaking
I'm
my
an
language.
I'm an Aquarius moon. My fight is not with individuals. My fight is with the system.
Yes.
Right on,
Um,
sis.
yeah. So my Karen of the week, I won't get into it, but um, a lot of things that have happened to me this year have led me down a path of going on a deep dive into my data, my taxes, my finances, my business. Like I am in the weeds, like learning about just a lot of business practices, identity theft, things like that, rebranding, all these things. Well, long story short, because it is a long one. I found it is a long one. I found out that on my laptop, not this computer, but my laptop, my firewall had been breached. And so, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, firewall is basically um, the system in which on the computer that keeps hackers bots from coming into your network and just fucking shit up basically.
Yeah.
And so again, long story short, I found out that while my firewall was down, a network had come in and bypassed what's called my proxy settings. And so I don't even really know what that means. So, just pretend like we all know what that means.
Yeah.
Some network.
Proxy settings. Got it. Roger that.
Cool. So they bypassed my proxy settings, and that I found a network on here that had bypassed my proxy settings. So in true Scorpio fashion, I am an internet sleuth. I am a detective. I will find the truth. I will
Yeah.
find the truth at all costs. I traced this IP network address back, and guess where it landed, you guys? The
No.
O-
The White
the O-
House.
the Ohio close, the Ohio State House.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
So, we're not getting all conspiracy theory here yet, because as my very
What?
grounded, very harmonious Libra partner reminded me, about 8 months ago, the Ohio State House, the government, got a data breach. A data breach. They probably breached their own data. Well, anyway, okay, fair, the government's a mess. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, going forward, I am trying to pay my taxes, right? My Ohio State taxes, because I'm a proud business owner now. Uh, my new firewall settings that I had set up on my computer, um, when I went to go pay, get into it's called Business Gateway, to go and pay my taxes, my new firewall setting is stopping me from going onto the government websites. So
Oh.
the government websites still are not secure.
Insecure. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
guys, that is my
Karen,
Government, get it together.
Get it
Right.
together.
No.
Get it together. If you want your tax money, guys. So now I have to drive my ass all the way to this tax department and go
Ew.
pay my taxes. I know.
No.
Right? Ew,
Yes.
a big ew. As
That's a
if
big
we
no.
didn't hate the process already, right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh my God. And like, imagine if you weren't your Scorpio self of like determined to want to
Yeah.
do that. Like, that is how
Listen,
people get in trouble.
listen.
And it's not even your fault.
Right.
And it's only gonna get worse, you guys. I feel like
No.
well, let's not put that out there in the universe. Sorry, we're not putting that on another timeline.
Edit
On,
that out.
on another timeline, it's gonna get worse. Not this one.
Oh
This one,
boy.
everything's fine. We're fine.
We're fine. We're fine. We got this.
It's so weird, Manny, that you and your girlfriend in high school just made up songs all the time. It's so out of character.
Yeah.
I know. It's not something that you guys would expect of me.
Not at all.
All right. Well, that, Karen, blew my mind literally. And yeah, the government, get your shit together.
Please.
As
Please.
For
well
the sake
as
of
older white men who want to be treated differently at resorts. Those are your Karens for
Same
the
thing.
week. All right. So it's funny. Like, I'm looking at my notes and it's like, I'm just going to dive in. And last week we were like, we're just diving in. And then Lex said something
Yeah,
about,
we're
"I'm just gonna
diving.
dive in." You know, we're just diving.
Deep
Lots
end.
of
Let's
cool
go.
metaphors here.
Yeah. I mean, it's only because we're in reality drowning. So we're just like, we have control of the situation.
You better start to learn how to swim.
Yes, you better. So we'll just get started. This again, as Karen mentioned last week, is a 2-part series on spirituality and spiritual practice. Lex, we all met you around the fall at a sound bath meditation when we were traveling for an alumni reunion in Columbus. A lot of our friends recommended you as, oh, should I edit this part out? A healer. Yikes.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. I just don't call myself that. If someone else is go off. Right?
They recommended you as a bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Good.
No.
I'm reclaiming that word.
Yeah. With the E, by the way, who they felt connected to, and we would have to agree. So last week, Steph and I were prompted by Karen to talk about our spiritual journeys. Karen shared a little bit about her background, and I thought maybe you could start by telling us about, like, maybe you don't want to go deep into your spiritual background, but possibly you could talk about a spiritual awakening that you feel was valuable in landing you in the position of where you are today.
Yeah, well, it's a wild story. I'm not going to lie. I just want to put a little disclaimer. I have had 2 spiritual awakenings, and now I think I'm in my 3rd one. So what a lot of people don't talk about is we don't just have one spiritual awakening,
Right.
because things change over time. The world changes. We wake up to many different awarenesses over the course of our lifetime. So not to get too deep into it, but my first one was when I was a teenager. And this one, for anyone that wants to hear about, oh, it was beautiful and I found God and like it was sunshine and roses and I, like all these things. No.
No, they're very yucky. The spiritual awakenings are gross.
They are
They hurt.
very, very yucky. And so my first one came when I was a teenager. I was in a pretty darn abusive relationship with a guy. With a guy. And boo. And so by the grace of God and my family and just, getting out of a small town, I was able to escape that. However, when someone goes through such a harsh trauma, it does awaken you to the ways of the world, to people's, there's a lot of good people out there. There's also a lot of Karens, and there's also a lot of like malicious Karens. And so that was my first spiritual awakening, because I was pretty sheltered as a child. My mom and dad wanted to keep my innocence for as long as they could. And so it's always a guy, you guys.
Yes.
And so that was my first one. Got out of that. The second one came around, oh, what year was that? What is time? Time is illusion. 2015, 2016. That's when I was trying to heal from all this trauma, and found yoga. So I stepped into like yoga philosophy, got my yoga teacher training, meditation training, trauma sensitive yoga teacher training. And that awakening was much more beautiful. That's when I was very free and blissful and joyous, and thought I would move to India. Decided not to,
Eat,
not
pray,
to do that.
love.
Literally, decided that wasn't for me, and stepped out more into the community. The second time around, it was really more about finding purpose, like finding what I'm here to do. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
And how are you feeling now? You said you're kind of feeling like you're going through something new.
my third spiritual awakening is what I would call, again, I'm still playing around with the language, but the great remembrance, I think, is what I'm. Uh, and not only that, I think this is my awakening of becoming a leader, and what that means, and
Yeah.
how to lead, what the next round of leaders looks like, and my place in that, and that I'm multifaceted and multidimensional, that I don't just have to be a healer or a seer or a visionary. I can also be highly creative, and I can be like the world's best gardener, and I can be a great partner. I can be a great dog mom. And so that's the next awakening of, I'm just here to do it all, you guys. I want just the fullest, freest life, and I'm going to go get it.
Yeah. Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so powerful and so empowering. And we were just talking about that last week's episode of like, we are in lack of spiritual leadership right now, and we are thirsty, and we need to drink from the well of people who are not going to put their ego into spirituality. There's enough ego in the patriarchy, and we are suffocated by it, and it's infiltrating every part and facet of our livelihood. And we are looking for something that is like way more like humble, and that is going to create more harmony than what we see. So I love to hear that that's like where you are, and that you are willing to to take on this in your journey right now, because we're looking for people who are willing to do that, you know.
No pressure.
You said something in there too, that you were talking about, like, you know, in your first spiritual awakening, you found that there are not everyone is here to provide good, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago too in our justice episode, which is very interesting. And so we're seeing on Instagram and TikTok a lot of people, and you were talking about this with reclaiming the word healer, or people have weaponized the word healer. We're seeing people that are self-identifying as healers, shamans, guides, witches, mediums, psychics, sharing their gift with their audiences. At least that's my algorithm.
Yeah, mine too.
But like, how can a person who is hoping to gain insight from the spiritual world distinguish a con artist from a real gifted
I love this question.
person with abilities?
I love this question. And first off, I just want to say, I don't think there's a single problem with calling yourself a healer, a witch, a reader, anything like that. My mission is to say, if you're going to call yourself those words, think about that, what that means. Like, you're a healer. That is a profound word. A witch. Think about what that word, that the connotation of that word holds, the history that that word holds. So I'm very, very, uh, very particular with the language that I use when I do this work. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, because
Yeah.
This next question, I loved it when I read this. I can't wait to dive into this because this is where I get a little controversial. Okay, so buckle up, guys. So if we're trying to distinguish from the algorithm, right, who's for us and who's not, a couple of things, and this is just me personally, that I find, just based on everything that I've done, the research that I've seen. Um, I got to talk to the divine really quick so I can find the right words to say. This is what I do. I start channeling when I start talking. Like the guides come in and say, "All right, Lex, say the right thing."
Yeah.
I find that if you are new to tarot or you're looking for answers around astrology, I find that go first to women of color, either Black
Wow.
women or Latino women, or any woman of color. And here's why. In my journey of reading clients and consulting with people, I have found that women of color, their ancestors are pissed, and they are, and they are, and yeah,
I wonder
and
why.
right, and those ancestors of those baby girls of that line that they have prayed for and fought for, they are going to protect those women at all costs. So I find that Black women and women of color who are readers, they are the most protected. They are the most willing to say the truth rather than just validate and fluff, which is what we need. And I find that Black women and women of color that are in this work, they understand how the world works. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes. I do.
yes,
They've
yeah,
experienced it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I say that like I know. and and so when you're picking out readers, you want to take into account who they're getting their messages from, right? Because reading is a channel. When you're reading cards, when you're reading tarot, when you're reading astrology, you are channeling information from something bigger than us. Now, we in our human vessels, we don't quite understand everything that's out there. We have a good idea, but we don't quite understand. And so ancestors, I find, are big. They can come in and channel, and based on whatever your ancestors were working with when they were alive, even adds to that. So, not to
Wow.
say that, yeah, not to say that white people are not doing fantastic jobs reading and healing and all these things, um, but white people. Let me make sure I'm going to say this right. The divine's like, okay, Lex, say the right thing. White people, we have a lot of unpacking to do, right? And I'm saying this from experience. My mom's side is Italian, and when I started doing some of this work, I had to clean up some mob ancestry. I have ties to the mob, so I had to clean up.
Wow.
Listen, and so we're always doing this work. And if you think about the mob, that's some pretty violent ancestry, right? Lies, deception, and so I have to be very, 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 very careful that when I'm reading for someone, that I am engulfing us in the divine white light. I am working with God's source, the light, whatever that word is for you, and that's why protection for me is just so important. But to keep answering that question of how do you know if someone's a con artist, I just like to stay away from certain language. I like to stay away from anyone that talks about twin flames. I just don't.
What is that? Sorry, I don't know what that is.
So the concept of a twin flame, it's similar to a soulmate. Um,
Oh.
yeah. So I know you're like, oh,
Yep. Red
no.
flag.
Yeah. So the idea is twin flame, harmonious soulmate, karmic soulmate. And a harmonious soulmate might be someone that you're married to, a life partner, someone that just brings you joy and is there for you and grows with you. A karmic soulmate can be someone, whether it's romantic, platonic, friend, family, whoever, that is in your life for you to learn a lesson. Dun, dun, dun. I know. And then the concept of a twin flame is the idea that when your soul was created, it split into two. It split into a divine masculine and a divine feminine. And we reincarnate over and over again. This is not my belief. We reincarnate over and over and over again with our twin flame, and we meet them, and it triggers in us or illuminates in us the most potent of all truths of everything that we are, have ever been. And it's so you can meet this person and it just like rocks your world, right? Now on the really intense side of this can be abusive, it can be narcissistic, it can be very toxic. And so that's why I just stay away from it, because it opens the door to us, to some people obsessing over relationships that have ended that were rather toxic or abusive or narcissistic even. And it gives us hope that we should look to one day reuniting with this twin flame. Now, so a lot of people in the industry have taken advantage of that. If you guys have ever seen, what is it?
There's a Netflix about it, right? Yeah. I watched a couple of episodes. Yeah. It's kind of like cultish a little bit.
It's very cultish.
What is it called? I'm not familiar.
I think it's called Twin Flame, right?
Oh.
Twin Flame something. Yeah, if you look it up on Netflix, you can find it. But my belief is that with twin flames, I think we can have, I sort of think twin flame and soulmate's the same thing, right? And I have a mentor actually who believes that twin flames, we have a different one in each lifetime. So, yeah. But it is a concept. The reason that it's so popular now is there's the idea that because the world is shifting and changing so much right now, that the millennial generation and the Gen Z generation, we have reincarnated specifically to reignite with our twin flames so that we can bring about a world of divine union. Now that goes down a whole other rabbit hole. That I don't know if you guys want to go down, but I know.
Well, I want to get back to Black women.
Please, I love Black women.
Let's talk about how great Black women are.
Can we just no. But Steph, didn't we have something that we were talking about on Instagram that we saw that you were like, I want to ask Lex this when she comes on a pod? Do you remember what it was?
It was something like, it was, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess this up. It was basically like, it was a meme. It was like a tweet or something. And it was like, if karma is real, then why are white people having such a good time?
Oh, they're not. Let me get real close up to the screen. They're not. No, it's perfect. What a great question. Oh, can you see how let me pull up my jacket.
It's hot here.
Like, take this off.
All right. They're not. Okay. So this is, I actually think I saw this meme. And so I'm so glad that we're talking about this. White people in the 3D. Now, I also like 3D, 5D, spiritual, physical. These are concepts that I kind of work with. On the physical plane. So physical plane is us. It's all of us doing all the worldly things. It's putting out the podcast. It's going to work. It's fighting with the Ohio State government. All this stuff. That's the 3D world, right? It looks like white people are having a great time because they have material things, right? They have, we have, I shouldn't say they, I'm a white girl.
You're like, I'm also not associating with white people. I'm not claiming to be white either.
So I should put that in there. We have all of the advantages, right? We have the privileges, we get the systemic and the societal just hand up. It's in the material world. But when we go and we do all the right things that our parents and society and the institutions have told us to do, we go and do all those things. So it looks like because we've done all the right things, we should have all that good karma, right? And we do. to a certain extent. But for example, this is a great example. A lot of white kids these days, when they get out of college and they go into the workplace, their soul is just crushed, like right off the bat, right? And so the karma piece comes in now when, how can I say this? We have been told to do all the right things. Physically, in the physical world, we're having a great time, right? Because we're getting the accreditation, we're getting the recognition, but spiritually, the soul is crushed because it goes from college, and that is a very pivotal age, I will say, from college into the real world. The soul is crushed almost immediately, and that usually happens around the Saturn return, which don't let my ADHD keep going that way, but. Um, so white people, as we get older, we really have to start unlearning a lot of things, and so we don't keep accumulating karma. And what I mean by that is we all have a purpose. We all have a purpose here. That's one thing I want everyone to get. Like, we all have a purpose towards each other, towards community, towards connection, towards feeding the hungry, towards healing the world, towards justice. And so there comes a certain time around that age of where kids get out of college, and it looks like they're having a good time, but spiritually they're absolutely crushed. So I know I kind of went in a circle with that, but
No, I love that. You're reminding me, Karen, you brought up a part of White Lotus, but this is reminding me of part of White Lotus where she's the British girl is sitting next to the American boy who I feel like he's like fresh out of college or whatever. And you think, if you're watching season 3 of White Lotus, you know who I'm talking about, the older brother. And he is like so disheveled after this one experience from the last episode, and he doesn't know how to like sit with that discomfort or sit with the truth of that experience. And he looks over to the girl who he's been trying to get with for weeks, or for not weeks, however long they're at the White Lotus, and he's
3
like,
days.
Yeah, 3 days. Seems like weeks to him because he's getting rejected. But he looks over at her and he's like, "Why won't you just have sex with me?" And she's like, "Because you're soulless."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Having sex with you with you would take away more from me."
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
she's like, "And I'm trying to do things to fill my soul, not deplete it, you know?" And I just loved it. And she's like into astrology and not
She's
into
very
it, but
woo.
yeah, she's very woo. That's her persona on the show. And I just, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about that of like, we do things, I think one of the things with purity culture that they get wrong, with sex is that of like, is the soulless act, right? Of like you can have sex with whomever you want, right? But depending on where you are in your journey, is it going to feed you in a way that feels good, or is it going to take away, from your autonomy, from your power, from
Your
how
energy.
your energy. Yeah.
I
And I
have a
was also
question.
thinking of
Sorry.
Go ahead, Steph.
Well, I have a question because last episode, like last week, when we were talking, Manika brought up the different like planes, and you, Lex, have brought that up. And you were saying, to the question of why are white people having such a good time, and you were saying in the material,
Yeah.
okay, so which plane are they not having a good time? And like
All the other ones.
like and
All
like
the other ones.
How do I know white people are suffering?
or like what does that look like?
Sure.
Because we exist in the material, and so like what does it look like if they are not? And I felt like I was getting kind of a glimpse when Monika was talking about like the soulless, and that can cause harm. But if you don't understand that there's other planes to consider, what does that look like?
Oh, what a great question. What a great question. Oh, you guys are going to get me going. So the way that I interpret this, and this came from a book called The 7 Planes of Existence. Now, depending on who you talk to, there are way more than 7 planes, but I find that 7 is just a really easy number to remember. So there are 7 planes of consciousness that when I work with people, this is how I help them understand. Now, some people say it goes all the way to like 12 or 24. That's way too many. But
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
Remember,
So
at least.
and so this is just for our ego mind to kind of understand consciousness. Because on an intuitive level, there is no hierarchy, right? It all just exists together. But the first plane is the consciousness of vitamins, atoms, protons, electrons, neutrons, molecules. And then the second plane is plant consciousness, trees, bushes, flowers, things like that. The third plane is our plane. It is humans and animals. And then the fourth plane is the spirits, which would be like our ancestors, the memories of our ancestors, maybe what people would call ghosts. The paranormal could kind of live in this plane. It's sort of like the plane of memories, if you can think of it that way. Then the fifth plane is, I'm going to get it wrong. Hang on. Oh, the Ascended Masters. Yes. So the Ascended Masters is, this is like the archangels, the Greek gods and goddesses, the mythic gods. This is Jesus, Mother Mary, Mohammed, Kuan Yin, all of that who we think of as who have ascended. That's why when you hear 5D, this is the fifth dimension. That's where star seeds, people that energies that walk in love. They have figured out that true enlightenment is love, which is what Jesus, Mother Mary, the archangels, things like that teach us. The sixth plane is this one will bust your brain. The sixth plane is the plane of universal laws. So this is the consciousness of things like physics, karma, time. I'm trying to think of a couple others, but those are like the big ones. So the laws, universal laws, space, things like that. And then the seventh dimension and then on up is more like that divine God consciousness source, what we would think of as like all knowing. So to answer your question, they are only having a good time in that third consciousness. Because if you think about it, if you even move, if someone with really ucky karma spiritually, if they live a life of like fast cars and big houses, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love fast cars and big houses. But if that's what you're doing to just live and blah 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 blah, and you're not
Exclusively.
right, and you're not giving back, and you're not helping use your resources in some way with purpose and authenticity, then you're gonna, you could potentially die, go into the fourth dimension of that spirit world, and you're going to be a really sad Sally. That's where we hear about really sad and mean ghosts and paranormal. And so they're not having a good time in the fourth dimension. And then if they're not having a good time there, they can't even get to the fifth dimension unless they reincarnate and do it all over again.
Who wants to do that?
I'm like, this is my last lifetime.
Please.
Yeah.
Send me to a star somewhere. God damn it.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining these planes. Planes is what you're calling them.
I find
because I think
it helps.
I feel like I tend to be very cynical and very like science minded. Like I need an explanation, or I believe there is a scientific explanation for everything. And it's really nice to hear the way that, that's organized, and that includes very close to the top there. That includes science, right? So like for me, I'm like, there is an explanation for the connectedness of everything. And I don't know. I just and the way that you said, was it the fourth plane was like memories kind of?
Yeah. Yep.
Like I like that too. That's something that my brain can. Anyways, for those of us that are a little more skeptical, I think that was like a really helpful explanation to think of kind of the order of everything. So
I'm so glad. I love trying to bring it more science-based with spiritual, because it's to me
it's all connected, right?
Right. When I do this, it's all energy and frequencies to me. So that's how I see it. Yeah. But I also find that it really helps. Just a little side note, I love that it explains that everything is consciousness. And so if we're even mean to the trees, if we're even mean to the animals, they feel it, they feel it. So yeah. So we
Oh
better
my
be
gosh, I
nice, you
just
guys.
watched Wicked.
Ah,
And you just said if you're mean to the animals, like,
Oh.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah.
it's so good.
It's worth it. Mhm.
Also,
Yeah.
can I just say, like you just said, wicked. There is so much truth to like, ain't no rest for the wicked.
Mhm.
If this is just a little Karen side note,
Oh.
if
Mhm.
people are complaining about not getting enough sleep, tell them to go get their energy cleared. They might,
Mm.
yeah.
Hey, Bob, are you listening right now?
Oh my gosh.
Go get some
Yeah.
Reiki. Go get some Reiki.
Oh, I
I
like
was
that.
just listening to something about this, and I'm not going to get it right, but I was just listening to something about this. Speaking of like white people and white societies, like someone was just saying European communities have always had a difficult time with sleep. And it was going through like all the things that they've done to try to help them since like, you know, so that's been documented in the course of history, like to try to help them with sleep. And like traditionally, like indigenous and Black communities and Asian communities don't have issues with sleep. It's European ancestral communities that have really struggled with
Yeah.
sleep. It was fascinating. It was
Hmm.
fascinating. I'll have to share that.
All
Well,
connected.
it's
It's all,
all
it's all connected.
connected.
It
Yeah,
And
that.
couldn't be like just torturing people through history. You know, that
Nah.
couldn't be it.
no, it shouldn't
Our
be that.
ancestors. The sins of our fathers, right? The sins of our fathers.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Another thing that's like circling around TikTok, and I think it's made its way to Instagram, is this white guy that's like, just so you know, spirits cannot hurt you. If they could, a lot of white people would be dead by now.
Yeah.
Damn.
They can just make you feel real bad. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But it goes to, I think, how you were talking about, you know, the ancestral ties and the, you know, what I experience in my spiritual practice and contemplative, and when I channel in my ancestors, you know, it's like
Yeah.
that's not what they want to have happen, though. That's not what
Right.
they don't want
Right.
they don't want the reverse, you know.
Right.
That's not the messages that I receive from my spiritual practice. It's very loving, it's very community oriented, it's very servant oriented.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about, you know, I was sharing with Karen and Steph in our back and forth on Instagram when we send each other gifts and reels and stuff, that like Muhammad Ali is one of my favorite civil rights icons of all time. And he has this quote that says, "Service is the rent we pay for our room here on earth." And I just,
So true.
you know,
So true. Yeah. And it's so true. Like I just like, I want to go like back to Black people for a second.
sure.
The fact that I know you're like, I just gush over you guys. um, that is that other big thing too, why white people are so spiritually disconnected right now, is because we have lost our culture. If we ever had it to begin with. Well, we did. I shouldn't say that. You know, Europe, there was a lot of European cultures, Italian, Celtic, Norse, paganism, that kind of thing. But Black people and people of color, they haven't lost their culture or their community. And those two things are massive, massive in being connected to something bigger than yourself. And so when we are so in our ego and we're so capitalism, capitalism, capitalism,
Yep.
it's a zero sum game. We are just thinking about ourselves, and we can't be of service that way. We can't be with connected to something bigger than us. And I find that community and culture is that connecting factor.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have one more question before we wrap up for today. And it would be, what do you believe is the most important message from the spirit world or higher consciousness that people need to hear right now?
That is a loaded question.
They're talking to me right now. They're like, which one can come in right now and talk to us? I would say, sorry, I'm just channeling really quick. All right, we're just gonna, you know what? Here we go. Direct quote: God is pissed. Also, too, I heard a great, I know, right? I heard a great quote the other day. It said, the time that we're going into now, God is going to require more than prayers. And so of us, yeah, right.
Gosh.
And so I think right now, spiritually speaking, what needs to be done right now is, even if you're a good person, even if you believe in all the right things, even if you want there to be good in the world, even if you go to church every Sunday, whatever it is, if you are a good person, right now, Spirit is saying, you better get the F up. Like, you have to get up right now.
Do more.
You can't, yeah, you can't. I think silence is almost just as evil as malicious intent. And that's kind of a direct channel right now, too, especially where we're going. We're going into a season of, I was talking about before we jumped on, Neptune and Aries. This is a time of the warrior, of boldness, of courageous acts, especially towards women, or especially towards women and children, I should say. So, yeah, I think
Yes.
that's
Unless
enough said.
you're black, sit your black ass down.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and also I
We're
have to say,
resting. We're
Yeah.
resting.
please
Okay.
do. You deserve it. You deserve it.
Mm.
Also,
I-
here's something I've been channeling too. Just as we had the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement in like 2017, 2018, I'm just going to put this out there because this is a big message I've been receiving. Men are about to have the same collective awakening. So, ladies,
Whoa.
yeah, ladies out there, if you're good men, seem like they're going through it right now,
Hmm.
don't get in their way. Inspire them, don't save them. Okay? Because they.
Ooh.
I like that.
Mic
One
drop.
more time for the people in the back, Lex. Please say that. Repeat.
Was
Repeat.
that a mic drop? Was that a mic
Yes,
drop?
it really was. Those were some bars.
Yes. So
Inspire them, don't save them.
if your men are going through it right now, and if they are good men, hardworking men, they are about to have the same awakening that we had a couple of years ago. Inspire them, do not get in their way. Let them. They have to figure this ish out on their own, just like we did. Um, inspire them, love them. Don't let that take your peace or your energy. Um, and just don't get in their way. Let it happen. Because men need that camaraderie again. They need that brotherhood. And a lot of war wounds of their fathers and grandfathers are healing. So that's astrology based, by the way.
That gives me a little bit of hope.
Same.
Yeah.
Because
So,
Yeah.
we do have the patriarchy, and they
Yeah.
do need to be on board and driving change if things are really going to
Right. Right.
progress.
though,
Yeah.
I have a question about that. So, when you're saying that men will have an awakening in that, because I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement was, a force in looking for righting wrongs
Right.
done to the Black community and to women. So, but that's not what you're saying. I mean, because I'm just like, what wrongs do men need righted right
Maybe
now?
it's more writing. Maybe it's more about
And
I
them
get you.
what kind of awakening do they need? Or is it
awakening to
a
their
realization that there's change that needs to be made? Because I heard
there.
Karen say there hope, and I was like, okay, so you mean I need clarification.
They're gonna fix their shit.
They better, yeah. I
They
will
better.
say this. I'll say this. More so white men. I actually see black men already, this happening with a lot of black men already. I'm not so much in the indigenous or Latino cultures, but I have seen this already happening with black men. White men, and I should say probably this is more so blue collar and white collar working men who they are finally getting to a place where they're working hard and just had nothing to show for it. Whereas maybe their fathers or their grandfathers, it was different. And so men learn different than women, right? God bless them. Men learn different than women. And again, it kind of goes back to that cultural and camaraderie thing of men have lost their camaraderie. They have lost their brotherhood. And they're lonely. Like we've seen that there's an epidemic among lonely men. Not to make this all about men, but society is half of them, right? So if I'll say this, if your man wants to go golfing, let him go golfing. Let him go. Let him go golfing. Let him find that brotherhood again, because that loneliness, that is a soul crusher. that is accumulating karma, that depression, that lowness, that not feeling like men belong. And again, not to make it all about men, but that is the soul crusher of spirituality right now. And us women, we're really holding our men up right now, but we're tired. We're tired.
Yes, we are.
We're tired and we're ready to receive. Yeah. Sorry. Does that help?
Yes, it does
I think
help.
too, for me, what I'm hearing, the second part of that is it might look like, and this all goes back to what you were saying in the beginning of like how we are seers and visionaries generally as women, like it might look like destruction to us.
Yeah.
Right? As
Yeah.
women, it could very well be what you are afraid of, Steph. It could very well be that they might need to destroy some shit in order for it to eventually come back
Be
as
rebuilt.
what we want it to be. But like that is not our right now. What I hear and what like I hear from Lex and what I hear from like my spiritual practice is like I'm that's not anything that I'm going to jump into right now. You know, like if it needs to be, and this goes back to the spiritual awakening. Sometimes you have to break down before you break through. Right. And sometimes you have to destroy some shit, and sometimes it gets ugly, and sometimes it gets nasty before you're able to get to the other side of that and walk. You have to walk through it in order for it to look to get to the beauty of it. And I have to be, and this goes back to what we were saying about like death, you know, like I have to be unafraid of like dying in the process of that. Right. And I have to reach a place in my own personal like solace with something that feels good and comfortable to me or my community of women that like fine, I'm fine with that. Like I'm fine with, like I honestly had the thought the other day that like if they start like doing some weird shit and like enslaving people and whatever, fucking take me. Like I'm I'm done. Like I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like if that's what you are gonna do, that's what you're gonna do. I'm done. I'm not afraid of dying. But I'm not gonna live like that. You know?
Right.
And so like the non-interference is like such an important lesson. And we practice the radical way that we practice that is in every facet of our life of not interfering and rescuing people and saving people and the minor moments of interaction.
Oh,
that's what I'm getting.
I don't. I'm gonna kind of jump to confessionals just because I know we're at time. But Manny, like what that just triggered for me is like the evolution over my life of okay, bear with me for just a second. But like, I would watch movies or read books. Hunger Games is a good example, and I would be like, if this were real life, I would be Katniss. Like that was my dream. You know, like I am.
Of course, yeah.
I'm the bitch. However, as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, I'd just be dead.
It
wouldn't even be part of the story. I wouldn't like I'm not there at all. Like I would have I would have been deceased years before we got to Katniss Everdeen. And like there's something a little that's what you were describing there, Manny, just made me think of is like that's actually way more comforting to me because like suffering through that. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, I'm already gone. I don't got to deal with.
Yes, I'm on my way to that like sixth plane of quantum physics. That's where I'm heading. See you later, bitches. Right? Like that's where I think it's so comforting knowing about those planes, right? Of like we don't have to be scared of staying in the material world because beyond that, right? It's some other like cool shit.
It is. And that's actually a question I get asked a lot. Like people are very, very curious about this. I have like a lot of people say, Lex, what happens when you die? And I'm like, it just keeps going. Like it just keeps going. And I've channeled people that have passed over, not calling myself a medium by any means, but almost every person I have channeled that has crossed over that wants to bring comfort to their loved ones, there's nothing but peace. Like it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So just for all your listeners, you know, not to get a little morbid, but
no, but it is. Yes, I would encourage going to see a medium at some point in your life, at least one that brings in love and light. All right, so we do something which we've rebranded on this podcast when we have guests on. It used to be called
we never branded.
It was no.
It was never. It was never.
Don't even
Keep it
don't even
snappy.
say it.
on the fifth dimension, it was called Keep It Snappy.
No, I refuse to
accepted
accept
that.
it. No,
Never.
But here on this material plane, we're calling it the carrot interrogation.
Oh boy.
So
All right. Oh, okay.
you have, so what we've been doing is like you've been thinking about your answers and you've been, channeling. We need you to get spirit guides, go the fuck away. No, I'm just kidding. I would never talk to you like that. But like
Who's talking to me?
this is just like off the top of your head, okay? You got to
Okay.
answer these questions off the top of your head. Okay. So and keep it snappy.
All right. Oh boy.
Okay.
ADHD, go away. Okay.
Yeah. Goodbye. All right. So, if you could hang with one witch for a day, who would it be?
Stevie Nicks.
Oh,
ooh, good answer.
I was gonna say Princess Diana, but she's not really. She's more of an astrologer than a witch.
Oh my God!
I know.
We don't have time for this. Okay, but you gotta explain that
Nanny.
answer later.
Keep
Okay.
it snappy, girl.
Where were you on January 6th, 2021?
20, was it that long ago? Oh my gosh. I was actually taking a lovely walk. I remember, and I was like, look at these crazy MFers on the Capitol. I'm going to continue my walk. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
In a parallel world, you're living your life as a
Flower farmer.
flower farmer. Oh,
I know.
that is so delightful.
I know. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be when I'm an old lady.
Oh my God, I can totally see that for you, Lex. We're
Oh,
manifesting.
Manifest it.
Your favorite sign to vibe with is
Sign? Like an actual sign?
astrology sign. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, a stop sign or what? My favorite to vibe with, an Aries or a Libra, I would say. Yeah.
That's none of us, right, ladies?
It's none of us.
I love you guys though too. I like Aquariuses too. Aquariuses are the aliens. I love Aquariuses.
Darn, still not in there.
What
Okay. Finish
What are
this.
you guys? Remind me what you are.
Steph.
I'm a Virgo.
Virgo.
Pisces.
Pisces. I love my Pisces. I love Virgos. I love you guys. and Leo, right?
I'm a Leo. Yes.
Oh, I love
Lex
Leo.
has done my birth chart before, so that's
Love my Leos.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that because Leos, we really need that.
Yeah, I'm like, moving on.
The only sign that I don't F around with is Cancer men. So I'll just put that out
Okay,
there.
Cancer men, good because
Yeah.
Bree is a Cancer. Shout out to Bree.
know,
I forgot to shout Bree out this episode, so here it
Bree, hey girl.
Still see you. Okay, finish this sentence. Dead people are
Wise.
I like that. All right, 2 more questions here. Who's your favorite host on the You Can Call Me Karen pod, and why is it me?
Oh man, don't give me any karma here.
Manny, you're evil.
I love all
Next
of you
question.
guys.
Next question.
Yes, last
Clearly
question.
me. Next question.
Yeah. Not. Okay, but last question is where can our listeners find you if they want to see more information about what it is that you do?
Oh, that's an easy one. Okay. www.spiritualyou.org. Instagram, Lex M. Smith, super simple. And I'm trying to think what else. YouTube. YouTube is just Spiritual You. So
Okay, wonderful.
Spiritual and the letter U, right?
And the letter U, yes.
Like university.
And we will link all of this in the show notes as well so that everyone has access.
Yes, it's a good time over there. And I will say this, I'm going through a rebrand right now. I'm cleaning some ish up for this new timeline that we're all on. So bear with me.
Of course,
But
we'll
it's
invite in so much grace. You've been such a wonderful guest, and we are so thankful for this conversation.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening to You Can Call Me Karen. Please like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Tell us in your comments who's your favorite host so that we can really settle this question. And don't forget to leave us a comment about your Karen for the week on Wednesday or Thursday when we post that on Instagram. And we'll see you. This is the last
Next
episode for a while. We'll see you next season. We're wrapping up
Oh.
this season 2, and we'll be back, I think, in May or June. So, yeah, it's been real. We love you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks,
Hey,
Karen.
And the fox, and the green fox, and the fox, and the blue one, and the fox, and the yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.